Hello BookTube, and in this video I'm going to be giving you my review of Casting the Rooms by M.R. James, which is from his second collection of ghost stories called More Ghost Stories of an Antiquary, which was published in 1911. After rejecting an academic paper on alchemy, Mr. Dunning comes to the attention of the sinister Mr. Carswell and his occult powers. This story, I do enjoy this story, though it's not a particular favourite of mine. Though it's not a bad story by any means, it's reasonably strong as M.R. James story among M.R. James stories. The villain in this case is very much human. This is not a ghost story at all. Again, as with happens repeatedly by throughout M.R. James's stories, the ghost is not a ghost. It's clearly Mr. Carswell using occult powers and elements of witchcraft and things like that, so black magic, to do his bidding against people he doesn't like. And Carswell is very well drawn as a villain. You get a description of him at second hand from other people who have met him, and it comes through those as being clearly a deeply sinister, unpleasant man. There's particularly an account of him giving a magic lantern show for children, which sort of shows how really unpleasant and horrible he is, and that's really well done. Dunning is an extremely sort of likeable character. He comes across as a reasonable man who is coming under threat from something he doesn't immediately understand, and it's sort of affecting the world around him. So, for example, when he's on a tram travelling from the British Museum to his home, there's an advertisement on the tram, and it happens to refer to one of Carswell's former victims. And he can see it, and the tram conductor and the tram driver can see it, and so you get this real sense of Dunning being affected by something real. This is not an example of him thinking seeing something. He's actually there, and so you get that sense of real horror of this is real, and it's happening to him. And until partway through the story, there's seemingly nothing he can do to stop it. However, the way he does stop it, with the help of the brother of the former victim, is very well done, and it's got a bit of a sort of intrigue about it, sort of almost spycraft, where they I'm not going to tell you what they do, but they are able to they transfer the sort of the destiny of transfer the fate of Mr. Dunning to Carswell, and it's really well done. It's not, as I say, nice. It's a nice story, entertaining. It's got all the polish and the sort of clearance you would expect of a M.R. James story. But as I say, it's not one of my particular favourites, but I certainly don't hate it, and I would recommend anybody who's not ready to read it, because it's really well done. So with that, BookTube, I'll say, I was going to say goodbye without mentioning the adaptation. This story has been actually adapted a couple of times. Once to film as Night of the Demon, which is reasonably good, which I enjoy, though it's got some funny stuff in. I won't go into it too much detail now, because next week that's one of the things to watch, and I'll be giving you a review of that then. For the other adaptation, or I should say the other surviving screen adaptation, is from TV. And it was done by Lawrence Gordon Clark, who is the man who adapted things like Warning to the Curious, The Ash Tree, Stalls of Barchester, for the BBC as a part of their Ghost Story for Christmas series in the 70s. And he adapted this for ITV, which if you're out of the UK, you have the BBC, so BBC 1 and 2, then you have ITV, Channel 4 and Channel 5, and ITV is Channel 3. And he adapted this in 1979, and he modernised it. Interestingly, it was I should say he directed it. It was actually adapted by Clive Exton, who is sort of a veteran screenwriter for British TV. Most notable thing I know him for is because he adapted. He was the screenwriter for the Jeeves and Wooster series in the 1990s with Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry, and it's modernised. But it's modernised well. It's well done. I think they change Dunning from a male academic to a female journalist, but which which is it's fine. It doesn't because of the changes, the other changes they made to the story, it makes sense, and it really does, and it works well. It's a reasonably good adaptation. And there's actually another adaptation I have seen, or I should say, listened to, of Casting the Runes, which was done by the BBC in I think 1981. It was part of their I forgot the name of the series. It was read by the Man in Black. It's an anthology series done starting in the 40s, back when Radio 4 was the BBC Home Service, and the man who presented it was called the Man in Black. He was originally played by Valentine Doyle, and then he was played by Edward D'Souza, and he's now when it's on Radio 4 as now it's called Fear on 4. The Man in Black is played by Mark Gatiss, and they did this radio adaptation. It was a modernised version, to a degree loose version, called The Hex, and it's really well done. I will leave a link in the description to both the 79 TV adaptation and Hex if I can find it, because they're well worth watching this to respectively, because they're really entertaining. But and they get the spirit of M.R. James's story on screen, on radio, whilst not being overly faithful. Though I would love to see a faithful adaptation of Casting the Runes, because it could be done quite well and quite simply. It's a pity that Mark Gatiss, who seems to be in charge of Ghost Stories for Christmas for the BBC, is going off adapting M.R. James, and he's adapting other things, because Casting of the Runes will be a very nice story to adapt to the screen. It's very much a visual story with the elements of the advert inside the tram, the things that go on inside Dunning's house, and then eventually the way that they transfer Dunning's fate to Carswell is all very visual, and it would be quite easy to adapt it reasonably faithful in period to the screen. So I can only hope that in the future somebody will decide to come along and adapt Casting to the Runes as part of A Ghost Story for Christmas by the BBC. With that, BookTube, I'll say goodbye, and I will see you later. Bye, BookTube.